Here we go.
Excellent. Well, let's get right into it. Thank you for coming, Joe. Austin, welcome to the podcast.
Pleasure. Glad to be back.
Going to jump right in. Before Austin and I play the theme music live here, just wanted to thank you for coming over. Obviously, it's a treat to be indoors again.
I am a homebody. At least I am now after a year of trying it out.
So this is your native setting?
Native, yeah. Although, I did start experimenting with nudism. No, I'm kidding.
No, nudism, that's going to fly. That'll be the next version of the podcast, though. We'll eventually get there. All right. Very good. Very good.
That's the first live music I've heard in about a year.
You're going to have a lot of firsts on this podcast.
A lot of firsts.
Definitely some of the first I played. Joe, thank you for coming by, though, man. We're very excited to hear in the car ride over here about some of the art success you've had lately, some of the projects that you've signed, sealed, and I believe also delivered.
Yes.
To the people of Chicago, to the lovely people of Chicago.
Yeah, I'm that's for the dogs, man. Just a lot of dog portraits, and it's good. Business is booming. It's a little bit of corporate stuff, but I haven't sold out yet, man.
No, it takes time. You need at least, you got to be at least 40 before you fully sell out, Yeah. Because people, you can always turn and still be just claiming you're getting into the belly of the beast, right? Like when you're younger.
I do think there would be some power in, a few things. Like, number one, we're all reevaluating how we feel about ourselves after this pandemic, right? We got to know, looked in the mirror for a little too long, in my opinion.
Is it the nude thing that you're are you checking for moles or
get all the angles?
Yeah. Actually, speaking of moles, it's an important thing. My grandfather did pass from melanoma.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry.
Like my dad does, I've started, I see a mole on someone's face or body, or when I go to the beach just for fun to call people out. It's like, hey, get that shit.
Mole police.
No, my dad literally does that, and it's like
the mole monitor.
Yeah, he's actually saved a couple lives though. I mean, people just they don't really think about that. A mole could
I'm more amazed that he's capturing their contact info to follow up on the diagnosis. That he knows their lives have been saved.
It's just that they'll contact him afterwards.
Really?
Like, I got it checked, and it was early stages.
That's beautiful. That's cool.
It's something to be this is a pretty pasty crew. We got high risk.
Pretty pasty crew.
Yeah.
My family, they've had stuff removed off their face.
Right.
Yeah, this is common.
Yeah, I'm getting this looked at just to make sure this is good. This growth. Yeah.
I was on some consolidation website a few years ago. Must have been Reddit, whatnot. And they're like, oh, future technology, something. And it was like, yeah, 2 years, we're going to have a pill for sunscreen. It's already in development. It's already...
Would you sweat it out?
Yeah.
I don't know what the mechanism is, but it seems like the fine folks at Coppertone had something to say about the matter,
Man, I'll tell you what, my armpits never got any sunburn at all.
Well, that's where you need to have one of those trifold mirors, to get it up in your...
Right.
Your neck and to get the armpit tank
just in time for that Coppertone and Advil collab that everyone's been talking about.
You know what I've been worried about? Is it Coppertone, the one with the nudity in the logo?
Yeah, the nudity.
That has not been Me Too'd yet.
No.
I mean, that's...
Yeah.
You know what I'm thinking about? It's just,
I do.
Because I could be wrong, but...
It wouldn't be Me Too. I don't know if that would be the...
It was a dog, right?
Me Too is the catch-all expression for
No, I'm not...
The thoughtfulness movement.
I'm just trying... Maybe it would be more of the QAnon people...
there
freaked
you go.
out about
Dude, that's it.
Okay, anyway, that's not a road we need to go on.
No, maybe it is. Maybe if you get rid of the Coppertone child,
right? We'll call it that.
Then QAnon will just go away. That'll be the straw that breaks the QAnon.
Yeah, what if that's the domino that ends QAnon is getting rid of the Coppertone ass?
We did what we needed to do in society. Yeah. We can move on to more righteous pursuits.
I just like I said, I'm just trying to help. I'm throwing ideas out there, seeing a little stick.
Well, your dad was helping people at the beach, saving lives. So you need to take it to a more scalable level where you can change all of Coppertone. You know what I mean? You need to take his mission and move forward for the next generation.
Canceled, it's just
cancel Coppertone. It's got that double C already.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah.
This podcast sponsored by, what is it, Banana something? What's the
Banana
other?
Boat.
Yeah.
Sponsored by
Banana
Banana
Boat,
Boat and
Neutrogena. Thank you very
Neutrogena.
much.
Yeah.
That's my brand, actually. So
I will say that, well, you start getting, over 30 and you're just like, oh, maybe you start understanding like, oh, maybe I should think about like putting on daily facial moisturizer that doubles as sunscreen, just
my
you start-
girlfriend's reminding me all the time.
yeah, be like, yo, you're ashy right now. No, it's like, no, it's
She
it's
just
not-
holds that mirror up to my face.
Right.
She's just like, are you happy with what you see, or do you find that
You ready for the day? Is this the day you're going to have right now?
Yeah, they don't hold a mirror up to my face. They just use a magnifying glass to start burning ants from what they see.
pain probably does work better for that.
I know, but
Austin, what's your thoughts on sunscreen? Are you like paranoid about it at all?
As much as a 22-year-old is concerned about the sun
Nope.
until I get,
Nope.
a mole that slowly grows.
There's
That's
a good YouTube video like about wearing sunscreen. It's the director of The Great Gatsby or something. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like you should wear sunscreen, and he gives like 1,000 other tips, but like it's rooted in wearing
like F.
sunscreen.
Scott Fitzgerald, you're talking
Not
about?
the writer. I think he did Romeo and Juliet. He's a visual artist. I forget what the director's name is. People are tripping right now. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm forgetting a
That's
visual god to some folks, but
Yeah, I don't have much of a memory mechanism for actors, actresses, and especially directors. It's not like you ever see them on screen.
it's true. I just know Kubrick from his long series of erotic calendars that he shot. Him on a beach.
Oh, yeah, you'll never forget
Him,
that.
him in a hammock.
Yeah, a banana boat hammock.
Banana Boat. Nice.
That actually, yeah. Sorry, we're
I only
off
know
the rails already.
that's bound to happen.
Yeah,
That's bound to happen somewhat. We're excited to see each other again.
I know.
Got to get our bearings. We're sitting pretty close though. Is this like? Do you feel like this is normal for you? Is this going to be?
Well, I am worried. I did read an article about like the fear of sexual charge, like entering back
I'm
into
listening.
our lives. Yeah, I mean, but like I did go on a date, and it was great. It went well.
Very cool.
But it's also like I'm back to rookie mistakes of like, hey, you know what? I didn't eat dinner. And I just drank old fashioned, and now
I am feeling really charming for some reason.
well, right. And it's just like I don't know if I'm my full self. I wouldn't call it like I'm at my peak of like knowing how to interact, but hey, you know what? It turned out okay. It was just that more, I think what it is I've experienced actually elevated levels of self-confidence in the pandemic. However, it's in a vacuum of outside criticism, right? Like it's really not until I like schedule a call with a client that I realize I literally see myself in the reflection like, oh, I didn't shave. Right? Like,
Well, I think that's a beautiful thing though, because your mind is maybe focused on more of the important things, more of the important places you're trying to go and contribute to. It's not just about looking perfectly well kept for maybe
Right.
your manager and how he feels about
And
his
that's what I'm known
reputation and
for,
his team
you
at the
know?
office, what have you. That's what I'm known for.
We have the best looking team in the industry.
yeah.
I haven't been shaving as much. I haven't been showering as much, and I don't really miss it. I felt like, although this is post-corona though, so I should be now shaving again. I should be showering again. We're looking to the future.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think? I'm maybe part of the show is we kind of come up with our vision. We were talking about visions earlier.
Vision,
right?
yeah.
What do you guys see as kind of like, there's been a lot of talk about the roaring 20s, right?
Yeah.
What is your vision of like how maybe social mores will be changed for the better or for the worse, or maybe both? We should make a prediction,
Sure.
but we don't have to do it now. But I think
By the end, right?
we can if we want, if you have a hot take. But I would be curious to think about that.
I'll jump right in
Okay.
and say that I think I've also been pampered in a sense by being alone a lot. And that does lead to maybe some increased confidence in the areas that you're working on a day-to-day basis without other people's sometimes unimportant influence. But I think there's going to be some social friction once we get around people again, because people maybe have been softened by their time alone. Maybe people haven't had all their edges rounded off, and they're not going to be as malleable to some of the influences of others in social situations.
Sure.
Interesting.
This is probably only going to get, not only, but most prominently going to get manifested once someone's had like 6 beers at a barbecue and like gets overly emotional. Like, shit, I'm used to being drunk at home. Now I'm drunk and it's 90 degrees
Yeah.
and I haven't had a burger yet. And oh my God, I'm used to just ordering food and it shows up exactly what I want, but now I'm waiting for someone to grill me my food.
That's true. Yeah.
And so it's like a comfort thing.
It's going to be me in 15 minutes when we're grilling after this podcast.
Yeah.
Or an hour and 15 minutes.
Well, I was going to say, what you're bummed about, it sounds like, is that people will be less susceptible to your manipulation.
Most prominent. Okay. Most prominent. Yeah. You don't want the playing course to be any harder than it needs to be. Right?
The controls are getting tighter.
Yeah.
I cannot bend my people to my will.
The Illuminati are experiencing difficulty convincing people to do what they need them to do.
No, I'm a
People
Mason.
have
I'm a
become
stonemason.
self-actualized.
It's a stonemason podcast. What are you talking about?
Stonemasons.
Is it this?
That's too negative though. Just quickly, I think also people are gonna be hopefully working on things that they care about more.
Sure.
That they're gonna appreciate each other more. So it's gonna be a complex interplay of things like always. But to end on something positive, actually we had our first hang with some guys the other night, or one of my first major hangs, and we played music, and to be honest, the mood was pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, it was electric.
It was an electric feel in the air. Like everyone was definitely psyched to see each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go more towards the line of people are maybe going to be a little bit closer. Everyone's going to be slightly close talker just because you're loving that, more space or less space we can have with people, right? Instead of the 6 feet, it's going to be like a couple centimeters with people. You'll be talking like this,
Yeah.
Or, random conversations will come up more. Like you'll meet a random person on the street and you'll have the need to talk over like a T-shirt or something like that.
Yeah.
Just because you've been locked up for so long.
A greater
That's true.
openness then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting to
hopeful
think
for it.
about.
Hopeful for it.
We can all. That is interesting. It's almost like we're all just getting out of jail.
That's mainly how I've been thinking about it.
Life. Just like I swear I'm not. Don't judge me for the past. Because I actually think, I like fresh starts is what I'm inspired by. It's not to say everyone's going to be perfect, but I get that sense, like the small. Okay, I'd say there's a dichotomy that I'm experiencing right now. It might just be this moment in time. Is I think that when you do meet up with people, it's electric. It's like,
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even know what I was missing, right? It's like, because I feel like I kind of hardened my expectations for what I was even going to allow myself to get excited about or whatever. But then the other part of it is I'm surprised at the slowness at which some people, they're like expressing a desire to stay in the hole. I think that's something that is like
Is that signaling, or do they really mean it? Are they just trying to seem like a good guy, quote unquote? Or do they actually have fear?
Well, and that's the thing, is that you don't know. I'm not trying to blame it, but I've noticed there's been several people in my circles that have been, they're like getting married. But, in my opinion, it's just like, hey, if you were forced to wait and all this backlog of weddings, it's just like, yeah, screw it. We're going to the courthouse. We're getting married. Like, no need for the fanfare. But I think in my mind, there'd be like this idea of like, but we still want to obviously celebrate. But, I think it's gone in the other direction. It'd be like, instead of even having that as like a residual expectation of like, we'd love to just, meet up at a bar and just like celebrate our wedding. It'd be great to see everyone. I think there's a lot of people that like kind of outed themselves as like, I genuinely don't have to see anyone really besides this very small group. And so I think it's whether you call it like introvert explosion type thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, maybe people who are more extroverted have a taste of introversion and the solitude that they're allowed to have. And then all of a sudden they're like, maybe this is a little better than being out every Friday,
Yeah, you never know.
It's interesting.
But what I will say is I am excited about, I think, economically and politically, for people who, the unemployment and the public support, I think it did two things. I'm interested to see what happens, because last time we did meet was before the election. Not to say we have to get political, but this is the thing, is there's a much more sober tone, and it's not to say that Uncle Joe is or Mac or whatever he goes by now.
Captain Uncle Joe, yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Dr. Captain Uncle Joe.
The thing is like, we're at least back to complaining about policy or, whatever it is. But what I was going to say, though, I think what is exciting is that people just realize, like, wow, we can afford to pay people. And I love the squirming that's happening about, like, no one wants to go back to work for starvation wages. What's wrong with America? Like that, I think has something to it. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Hopefully one of the biggest silver linings of Corona that it ended up forcing this wage increase for the bottom earners of America that would have never happened without truly some sort of giant act of God. Because how else do you get 300 million people to somewhat act in concert outside of paying them all in concert?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I read the article, it might have came out in the last day or two, but it was about that where, corporations have gotten so used to such huge profit margins based on undercutting people's wages that they're reluctant to, like they're trying this PR campaign of like, these people are lazy. What happened to personal responsibility? The American dream. It's like, dude, shut up, man. Like,
it's ridiculous.
You are literally stupid. Like, I just can't even... you're supposed to be the businessman. Like, don't you understand incentives? Like, pay up, bro.
And don't you understand?
Open those pockets, big guy.
Yeah.
That if,
such a hot shot,
That if corporate executives are largely being based upon the performance of a stock price, and the stock price increase is largely the result of price multiple expansion, where the company is being valued at a higher level regardless of the earnings actually going up.
Right.
If you can connect that dot as someone in a position of power and still make these complaints against people who are just trying to get an hourly wage, not an equity-based compensation.
Right.
I don't know.
We're counting on a lot of people not understanding what you just talked about because our economy has clearly been illustrated to be. We are in beyond like housing crisis territory. It's just bonkersville where
it is.
Money doesn't mean what it used to. We got near zero interest. We got all this other stuff, and I don't know. We'll see what happens next. And I'm not. Look, it's the roaring 20s, baby.
We're here.
We are in the 20s. The
now,
literature that's going to come out of this period.
Great Gatsby 2. Return of Jay Gatz.
Yeah.
How do you feel, Austin? Maybe you can hit this one first.
Let's see if I can hit it.
How do you feel? You're gonna smash this. How do you feel about art after Corona? I know we're working on your project, your EP this week.
My EP coming out soon.
Just to check in, because on the last pod we were starting the process.
We have 4 more than what we had before when we started the last pod.
But one of the things you were thoughtful about, and I think it's really smart, is you don't want to just like do Corona lyrics.
Fuck
for your EP.
that,
it's like we're
dude.
done with
we
that.
all
right?
lived it. How are you going to be relatable when everyone did something? I mean, like you can, it's easier, but like, come on, let's get past it already.
The chance to do that was April 2020.
You're 100% right. When it just came out.
Although it would be fun to do a Corona freestyle right now.
Yeah, but that's
Let me turn the keyboard on. Yeah,
get the samples going.
But besides that, Austin, do you feel like you have any impressions about what art's going to look like moving forward here?
I would say even I wouldn't use the word saturated, but I feel like even more people picked up art during COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, much of my friends who smoked weed for a living, picked up art and weed, or not art and weed, art and music, and I've tried to,
Dude, you said it right. Honestly, I think for a lot of folks,
but they picked up art. People I wouldn't never think to pick up art, they picked up art. I'm like, oh, interesting. That's a very interesting call.
I was gonna say it's a Freudian Bong hit, is what you just said.
Freudian Bong hit.
It's kind of like a Freudian slip. Couldn't come up.
Oh, I came up. I was talking to a friend who is a physical therapist, and what was I talking about? Oh, the other thing I wanted to say is like YouTube has put me on the fringe of insanity in the sense that like they've nailed me down. I think it's just more like the self-awareness of what they're feeding me now. Like they don't even try with any of the radicalization stuff or anything that from, I'm not getting these. They're not even trying anymore. They're just sending me, it's always unusual memes compilation. Okay.
It sounds pretty good.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah.
But like, then I'll every once in a while just get like one TED Talk, right? Just be like, I was like, oh, that's different.
It's a beautiful curation of right there. So the algorithm's really helping you out in this situation.
Yeah.
If they were ever to come up with like a Khan Academy, like an online school for therapy that's automated, it would just be like 9 memes and 1 TED Talk. That would be the format, honestly.
That's
so
true.
I feel like that could be helping the mental health, at least with your algorithm. Like they are sending you in a good spot.
Well, and I feel like I've had, I don't know if it's similar, like NPR says like, it's like a driveway moment. You like pull into your driveway and you like don't turn off the car because you want to listen to the end of this, story or whatever. It's like, okay, that's great. But for me, it's like this new phenomenon of just like watching an hour of meme compilations, but then finding one 10-second clip that literally, it's like, it's already on in the next video, but I'm just like, wait a second. That was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I laugh like out loud for like 5 minutes. Like, it's great.
Are they like Vines or like, is it?
Well, like the most recent one wasn't a video, but it was just, you know, I've ever seen like, there was like a book for a while. It was like, eat this, not that, or something. Yeah. And it was just this meme. It said, don't eat this. And there was a Big Mac, like 540 calories. And then next to it, it just says, eat this. And it's 2 metric tons of loam topsoil from Lowe's.
Some mulch, yeah. That's one of my. That's a classic.
I know, it's like, I probably saw it on like a, you know, like a deep fried memes thing.
Fuck yes, dude. I love deep fried memes so much.
But it's just like, man, I don't know how I missed that. Like, or like there's one, it's like, it's a picture of like Eminem with like Dr. Dre and like Ice Cube from like the 90s, and it just says like time flies. And then it shows a picture of the Pope with a bunch of African American people, like just like speaking into a microphone. Like, I don't know, like it just hits so, it's like a acupuncture needle. Just
incredible.
There's been a rash of memes online that are making me piss my pants. It's like poorly cropped Facebook mom memes where it has the beginning of the joke and the bottom's just cut off. It'll say like, when your daughter comes home from school, and then it's like you just see the top white of it. It's like a couple minions on the screen. It's fucking, it makes me piss my pants every time. I love it.
Sounds like the future of art on the internet is upsetting troll culture, basically. It's
right.
Counterfactual.
It's more abstract, you know. What was the punchline?
No, but honestly, it's really astute to be able to see, oh, can you believe this actor released this movie 20 years ago, and then it's someone from like a year ago. You know, they'll do all those substitutions.
Or the one where it's like, you know, Rihanna found a crying child on the ground after he dropped his ice cream, and kids made fun of him for liking science. That man, Albert Einstein. You know what I mean? Like,
you need a scaffold of good information to find that shit funny, though. You know what I mean? We're all at the point in our lives where like we kind of get modern history. We get like mostly a U.S. perspective of modern history. Obviously, you're mentioning not only memes, but like types, categories of memes, deep fried memes. You know what I mean?
Deep
like
fried.
You have a well articulated understanding of 21st century internet culture, and then it's a twist on top of all that.
Right. Yeah. And like, for example, though, like I find that idea of like deep fried memes, or now they're called like moldy memes. So it's like, but you know what the reference is, right?
Oh, of course.
It's like
I don't.
So what it is every time somebody screenshots a meme,
Oh, okay.
it loses
I was telling him
resolution.
this the other day.
Living with a 22-year-old all week. This came up 2 days ago.
Well, so,
so
what's
good.
funny about this is when I used to teach, we were learning about like different image formats and like, you know, how to, you know, make memes. We're learning about, you know, juxtaposition, you know.
That's interesting.
That's the number
Right.
one art word, straight up.
Oh,
Yeah.
always. And there is a magazine called Juxtapose Magazine, which is like, it's actually some pretty cool. It's like street art and stuff. Anyway, so these kids all have iPads. I'm teaching them how to make these. I said, you got to make a hybrid animal, or, you know, like a living being or something. So, you know, they're putting like giraffes heads on, you know, humans, or so was this one kid that just used like a chimp's head on like a baby, which like just killed me.
You gotta
know what I
deep fry
mean?
that.
That's half a Pokemon right there. I mean, like, that kid can get a design job.
Chimpfant.
Right. But so what's
Simia sapien. Sorry.
well, and the thing though is, like, I mentioned casually like deep fried memes, like, because, you know, they always tell you like, oh, these kids are super literate on the internet. Like, I think internet, and they're like, oh, they probably know what that is, like if they're on Reddit. But I'm like, I didn't realize, like, oh shit, like Reddit's kind of like
How old
an
were they?
adult. I was like middle school, like I was like 8th grade, but
yeah.
I was just like, I like maybe some of them, and they're just like, so of course, like, I'm giving a lesson talking about like we're gonna make a deep fried meme. Like, have you ever noticed like when somebody shares this, I'm teaching about the compression of these images, and they're like, okay, you know, and they get to work, and then somebody raises their hand, and they're like, yeah, Mr. Anderson, I looked up deep fried memes and these aren't appropriate. Like, oh no. Oh no. Like, you know, so it's like you don't even know the depth of the references, right? Sometimes
It
of
could
these
be as
things.
harmless as, you know, an apple on a table.
Yeah.
saturation all the way up, and it's just fucking, screenshot it a million times, or it's something that you can't show little kids.
Right.
It's hard. It's everything.
The categories can never get small enough, though. I mean, I was asking you guys about art on the internet after COVID. What does that even mean? I mean, you're more a musician, I guess, in terms of your output recently, and you're more visual in terms of your output. But I'm just trying to like homogenize the question.
Are you trying to shoehorn in NFTs right now? Is that what you're trying to do? You're trying to turn this into a crypto show? I am not going to buy
Steve Aoki's NFT.
Get the Jolly James Collector's NFT dropping along with this episode. Link below the description.
Wait, have you done any of that or?
No, but I can see. I like appreciate elements of the NFT as it relates to keeping track of people's contributions and keeping track of people's work being moved around, and hopefully getting artists more money for the work that they do, and of course long term inspiring then good work to be done now that there is some sort of infrastructure for people to be paid for that art. But no, I have not started an NFT scam on the podcast yet.
I almost
extremely bearish on cryptocurrency, so it's hard for me.
Sure.
Probably should lock up some Ethereum, lock up some Ether if I want to.
Or Ethan Allen Interiors. Don't forget, get Ethan Allen Interiors, ETH or something like that.
But you're also talking to the guy who got a YouTube account after he was 30 years old. So I want something to be well established before I spend some time on it.
I started smoking after 30. Next thing I'll get a tattoo. It's like
NFTs.
Well, I do think it's fascinating in the abstract. I do think, of course, the sensationalism behind it is really interesting, and it really blew up. And the ironic part about it is, like, over this last year, I've gotten more into using, like, Blender and ZBrush and learning all about digital art in that way. And I have a whole new appreciation for it. It's a totally self-sufficient world. I mean, I'm not criticizing it. I've always... It reminds me of like anime. Like in art school, there's always the anime kid, right?
Yeah, right.
You're taking life drawing where you're talking about anatomy, and this guy's got huge eyes, and it's like they're not even there for the same reasons. And while I used to make fun of that, maybe a little too much, I can appreciate it as like a subculture. It just didn't make as much sense. But same thing with like 3D art. It's a very niche online world that is fascinating with the technology, right, and how it dovetails into how explosion of gaming and or even just like tabletop games, that kind of world of like fantasy and stuff. Excuse me. I don't know. I just think that the real crazy part is like now you got this guy Beeple. I was about to say, yeah. I think that's really what it was. It was like
Is that $69 million?
Something like that.
Well, it's for 5,000 pieces. He did his whole 12 years of him working every single day. He did a project like in Blender every day.
Yeah.
For 12 years, and he's like, all of it is an NFT and it's for sale. $69 million. I think it was a bidding war. I almost won one of them for that sold for the $1. Really? I was in the waiting line, the raffle. It would have been. It was like $200,000 if I would have won. I was like, oh, I'm getting on that immediately.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just. What I'll say is, I think it's culture shock, but I think it also is a good barometer for people's understanding of cryptocurrency. And ironically, people are, we're talking about art, which is the most subjective, cash-based economy full of all sorts of criminal dealings and tax evasion and all this other stuff. And then let's just throw crypto in there, it
won't complicate anything.
Honestly, though, it's perfect because
the
the art market in a financial sense is one of the last under-regulated cash markets in the world.
How about this? When I'm thinking about NFTs and specifically like the transaction ledger that happens with NFTs, I think of it more like automatic accounting than I think of art. And that's what excites me, because to me, artists are always going to be artists. I'm talking about posting this stuff on YouTube. I don't care where this gets posted long term. That's irrelevant to me. I'm going to still create these. I'll post them on any network. Whether
you say that though, but what if it ends up on Live Leak or something like that?
What is that?
An unsavory website that you don't want it to be put on.
They have deep fried memes or something. Is that what that is? No, I'm kidding.
The deepest fried.
No, look, you don't want your hard work being co-opted by a vision that you don't agree with. Of course. Yeah. But back to the NFT thing. When I'm seeing NFTs, I'm still trying to focus on the message I want to get across or the value I'm trying to bring. And when it comes to the packaging, really don't care much about that. I don't know a lot of people that are buying NFTs, and I personally don't think they have much value. I mean, it's kind of funny we're talking about NFTs, which is a way to intensely keep track about original authorship and ownership of a digital file, when we also just talked about deep fried memes, which is intentionally a joke on like the fake copying pasted.
Like anti-NFT.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So naturally, I'm not fully drawn to that, because to me it seems sort of flash in the panish. But I think of it more like, hey, I want to be an artist. I don't want to be an accountant, i.e. keeping track. And so if it has smart contracts built in, like if the NFTs can give me 1,000th of a percentage point on every video I ever make, what have you, that's bought and sold, transacted, or copy pasted, that makes a lot of sense to me, because it just means I get to spend more time on the thing I love, which is meaning, message, and then maybe packaging.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting parts of it, I joined this graphic artists guild. It's like a advocacy organization, not quite a union, but basically they put out a book of like, what are the rates for different types of work in the graphic, visual arts field, typically for more commercial work, illustration. They help artists with copyright dealings. And they had a talk on this. It's a webinar that, I think there's great interest for what you talked about, like applications for managing rights, for crediting people. There's also a built-in royalty system, right, where you can hard code that into the coin. But something else that you don't think about, like let's say you say, I want a 10% royalty, and I sell it to my first fan. Okay. Well, let's say that somebody wants to resell that. Well, the 10% is taken out of the final sale price. So whether they sell it for a gain or a loss, I still get 10% of that transaction. I believe. So, but this is the other part.
That makes sense.
If you set it at 10%, that means the value of the asset has to appreciate more than 10% for that buyer to see a return. So in addition to buying the speculative value of the piece, they're also agreeing to say, I have to make up for this 10% loss built into the coin. So I think that's
a really, really good point. And
right?
With specifically taxation on the government, because the government kind of takes a slice of every transaction. With capital gains losses, it's more to your credit. It helps your cause. Versus this, as the speculator, you're paying either way. You're going to have to make up that 10%.
So I could be wrong.
Tax.
I could be wrong that you only make your 10% if it sells for a higher value, but I don't. They might be able to set that condition, but it's something that I don't think people have thought about for like liquidity. Like let's say now you have all these like high value pieces. I mean, what's 10% of 69 million? If somebody wanted to sell that, they gotta that thing has to increase by 10%, and now an auction house is going to come in and ask for 40% of that sale. I mean, there's no way you can win as a buyer, right?
Yeah. Hopefully being positive, there's always been middlemen, so to speak, in transactional elements, especially, I mean, with art, I don't know, maybe not more so, but hopefully your percentage, your VIG, whatever you want to call it, like it's going to be smaller than what was generally stolen over time by middlemen, art dealers, and restorers or whatever.
But my point would be is that just like we talked about the stock market, the numbers are not tied to reality, and that's what people are betting on. They are saying, well, the other argument could be like, well, yeah, you put a 10% on there because we know it's going to go up over 10%. And that's what we have seen with crypto. Like, you're getting it on the ground floor, but it's like, I mean, think about the Dogecoin thing with Elon Musk. I mean, there are a lot of people crying about that. And they're still on Robinhood. I mean, the last time we talked via text, we were talking about GameStop, and watching, CNBC because it's a more quiet, and it's like going to the library for news. You know what I mean? It's just like
I will defend that point.
You know what? Well, we can take that off the air, but
no, I'm saying no. I still believe that.
What's that host name? Is like Butch Daniels or something? He's got a weird name. The angry-looking guy.
I mean, Jim Cramer is pretty angry. Daniels.
Not Butch.
David Faber.
Butch Daniels.
I don't know.
That's a good name, though. I like that name.
Yeah.
There's the judge, is Scott Wapner. 11 a.m.
No, he's like...
This is the new segment on this show. Did you see CNBC? Did you see CNBC?
Anyway, I won't even give him any more credit. I'm done with it. But anyway.
But that's very interesting. You've already gone to a conference. You've gotten some like thoughtful info on NFTs.
Seminar,
You were in line for an NFT.
Yeah.
How did you even find out about it?
It was
that?
a raffle. Well, I follow him on Instagram. I've been following him for a while before the whole NFT thing. Not to say like, before, but I liked him. He had really surrealist 3D art that he made, and I was like, this guy's fucking awesome. And then Ethereum, and then NFT, and then look at this guy who made one animation for every day for 12 years, and then he's like, yeah, I'm gonna do another one for $1. If you win, you have to pay $1, and you'll probably make fucking $100,000 off of this goddamn NFT. So I was like, oh, I'll go ahead and set up. You had to take a quiz to get in, and it's a quiz about all of his old NFTs. And I was like, oh, I've been looking at his shit for years. So I had his Instagram open, I got in, and I got the quiz right, and I was in queue for like a raffle. And I think like 25 people got it. But then like someone posted all the answers to Twitter, and then the amount of people that got in that like exclusive kind of club shot to like 3,500 people. It was like 1,000, and then it was like bam, 3,500 people.
So you had a direct relationship with the artist. You were a fan before.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have. I mean, to be honest, I would have sold it.
Of course.
Why the fuck wouldn't I?
But yeah, I mean, I think it's a fascinating thing. I'm definitely going to watch, and it's not just art. I know that like some of the like sports collectibles are going that way. The music I think is actually interesting, and I think it does have potential for like records keeping. But I'm waiting for the lawsuits to come out where somebody tries to litigate a copyright claim, because there's also people that repost somebody's work and post it as an NFT and claim ownership, right? So the thing is like, it doesn't control that entry. Like, imagine if, you submitted a copyright infringed YouTube video, but instead of YouTube being able to take it down, okay, right, because they can't make money off of it, or they can't, pay the royalties to the right people. Well, the thing is now it's out there. People are making mad money off of it, including this person getting a royalty off of something they don't own. How do you litigate that, and how do you trace the funds and pay damages, right? If it's out of the control of any authorities, you can't litigate. So these smart contracts sound great in theory, right? But it's built on this kind of libertarian dream of like trusting people's intentions, while acting like people are all in good faith, right? And so I don't think that's
absolutely tough enough to get that 10% return on investment. Imagine adding the attorney's fees. My lord, come on! If you have to drag people to court and actually get that enforced by someone else, it definitely seems like something has to shake out, which is why I'm kind of just like letting it shake out. Let the Beeples who have pre-established audiences push that button, make that money.
Yeah.
And then, you mentioned Beeple. That's an interesting example, because how long was he doing digital art before NFTs were even relevant?
12 years, right? Wasn't it? It was.
He was at it. He was at his creative process. He was at his journey, and then this opportunity just came along. He wasn't focused on NFTs to begin with, so.
Yeah, right. You're doing something you do every day, and someone's like, "Oh, you want $69 million for what you just been doing?" It's like, no, nope. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to sell out. It's like, dude, at that point.
But that's not even. Is that even selling out at that point?
Well, I think that's the other part too. Is like
he still does it though. Sorry, he still does it. He still uploads every day. He still puts those 3D images.
But I mean, think about it this way: is like, remember how like selling out was like a thing that people talked about in like bands?
Yeah.
Like, number one, it's not
out,
even possible to do anymore because Spotify doesn't pay, right? I mean, you can't even do it. But like the value system of like authenticity, that conversation, no one's having it. But it's also similar to, when I remember getting out of college, started teaching, and these kids are like, "How do you have so much music, Mr. Anderson?" I'd be like, "Oh, you don't know about downloading things for free?" And they're like, "That's illegal." I'm like, "No shit," like, but people do it and don't get caught. Like, I got a couple of hard drives,
Theoretically, you have a couple hard drives.
Right.
Theoretically,
this was a theoretical conversation. It was a teachable moment. I was
teachable.
Right. So I was trying to describe to the students, like, if somebody had done that.
It's some nefarious person. I would never download illegal music.
As an artist, I would never do that. You know that.
It's insulting.
Right.
What happened to the old days when kids were supposed to be the pros on technology like that? Like, they should have been taking you on the Silk Road. It shouldn't have been you telling them about deep fried memes.
Well, that's the thing, though, is there's always only one kid they say there's always one, assuming there would be more, but there's only one, and it would be like the kid. It used to be the cool kid in the class, right? That would do it, but it's more like the Minecraft kid that would be like, Mr. A, that like this is a better site for that. And I'd be like, fuck, man, like this is. It's like not even a conversation that you would even know how to like report in a detention. Be like, he told me about it's like, what?
I told him about illegal downloading music, and he told me a better way to illegally download music.
Right. Yeah. Called me a noob. It embarrassed me.
And they gave me the login.
He did the Steve dance in front of me.
Oh my God.
Turns out, he's got a couple of VPN logins to share. He's a nice kid. Nice
got a couple
guy.
V-Bucks on Fortnite to share.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Oh my gosh. But hey, God bless those kids. They'll have issues of their own to deal with, and they take over, managing our world.
One day.
I can't wait till we're like the boomers. Okay, millennial. Like I always used to joke with people. I was like, they always say like, when you're young, you're a Democrat, you're a liberal or whatever. Like, but when you get old, like, what do you think is going to be the issue? They're just like, all right, that's enough. I'm a Republican. Jesus
all right.
Christ.
That's
you know what I mean? Like
for Gen Z, what would the joke be? Yeah.
I don't want to. I'm not saying that it would be, but I can just imagine that
capital gains tax on NFTs from the sound of it.
Back in my day, there was no capital gains tax. It was free.
Number one, you always got to go to the money for what's going to turn
yeah.
motherfuckers,
Yeah.
Hit them in the pocketbooks.
Yeah. Yeah, they're letting people marry cats now.
Yeah, they'll have their version.
Last year was dogs. I was fine with that, but now these cats, it's disgusting.
They don't show emotion. I mean, how can you marry a cat?
Or to be like marrying an internationally made sex doll, not a domestically produced sex doll.
Oh,
I like my sex dolls from America.
like
some sort of nativism
So
with
it-
like a
like
weird
that.
internet sex thing going on.
Right. You just tie in all of the hot issues and just make it a quagmire issue.
Make it an NFT.
Yeah.
And sell it.
Laws are going to be NFT.
Laws are going to be NFTs, man.
Well, I always had this idea, and this would probably be more of like a sci-fi thing, but it'd be interesting, like for like genetic modifications or something like that, where, like, let's say it becomes a very common thing to do, or let's say climate change reduces the percentage of oxygen in the air. Okay, right? So everyone just like, okay, we need more efficient lungs. Well, turns out you get this, new drug that can actually improve the efficiency of your lungs, maybe throw some filtering in there, and there's a whole range, right? But if you got like the bottom one, well, the thing is like, due to, let's say it's the rights to this thing are managed by an NFT, and built in that smart contract is it turns off after a certain term, right? And the thing is like it goes inactive, and you have to pay up, right? So the thing is like,
This is for oxygen.
well, I'm just trying to say whether it's oxygen or water, but my point would be is that your survival becomes contingent on this autonomous operation that affects you, and you can't even litigate it. The only option would be to go to like purchase a new license, or because the way in which for example, like agriculture industry can copyright genes, right, as like a work of, in the same way like a code can be seen as like a script, like a movie script, right? It's a creative act. Those are some interesting issues where, what's the difference?
I got one that might come sooner. How about these autonomous vehicles that drive if you don't pay your bill? Do they even need a repo man anymore? Or does the thing just fucking drive off on you?
That's a good point.
This is already happening now. They made this helmet that has an airbag attached to it that explodes, or it's a backpack, or I forgot which one it was, but it explodes with an airbag, and it saves you, but it costs $400 up front, and then you have to pay a monthly subscription service for the airbag to work because it's AI initiated. If you don't pay it, it won't go off. Or if you pay $800 when you first buy it. It exists already.
Wow.
What is it? Linus Tech Tips was talking about it. He's like, you have the ability to put your upfront costs there and save a life, and then charge someone double afterwards. That's a better business model than not letting it go off at all and the person dies.
Did you see their ad? It's on like late night, like Fox News prime time.
No.
It's with that. What's that band? How to Save a Life?
The Fray.
Yeah. and it's incredible. Yeah.
They use that
No, I'm
song.
kidding.
I
I'm
was gonna
just
say, what the
saying.
hell?
It's more like,
How is that?
don't pay and you won't save a life.
Oh my god. Do you? Well, speaking of like helmets and stuff, I was, I'm to be clear, fully vaccinated, fully supportive.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
We're supposed to get vaccinated.
one of those
for
guys.
this.
Look at me! I get hit with a shot twice. Who am
That's
I?
true.
Just kidding. Got
Yeah.
vaccinated. Sick as a dog. Continue.
Sick as a dog.
But I was thinking about like they finally got on board of like offering these incentives. I kind of alluded to this idea of like we got to drag people out of the basement again. Like it's just like look, like I get it, just more for whatever. Actually, if people want to stay in the basement, it's fine. Whatever. But I think like the messaging, it's like people on motorcycles who don't wear helmets. Okay, that's the thing. You could make a law that says, which we have a law in some states, wear a helmet while you ride a motorcycle. Otherwise, you can't. Well, that's contingent upon them getting caught, prosecuted, fined, whatever. Well, the problem is that nobody's going to spend their time chasing motorcycles around. And the thing is, you see these guys out there looking like badasses, just like, bald as fuck, retired, cruising around on a Harley.
Bald and retired. Yeah.
Like you're just like, hey, that's great. We're happy for you. But the thing is like, if you're going to expect that risk taker to be like, imagine if they said everybody has to wear motorcycle helmets as long as some people won't wear their helmet while they actually ride a motorcycle. So while you walk to the store, you got to wear a motorcycle helmet. Just to like shame those people, right? I'm not saying that.
Are you bringing up the mask law right now?
No, I'm just trying to talk about some of the optics of saying like, I'm just trying to say is why isn't it enough to say, hey, the vaccine works. If you get vaccinated, yeah, we are going to check. But the thing is like, we've created this little card. And the thing is like the card will say, I can scan this at Target. I can scan this for a thing. Like there's an incentive to get it.
Money's huge.
And that's the thing. Just we figured it out. We're in capitalism, but we don't use it when it only works when you're being exploited, right? It's just like, why not use it in a positive dimension? You're already paying for everyone to get the vaccine.
Absolutely.
You can't get the people to take it, right? It's just like,
Absolutely.
hey, guess what? There's a consequence to being an idiot. Like, get it. We'll pay you to do it. Any other thing you would get paid to do,
That's like Psych 101, positive reinforcement. We'll get people to do more shit than fear. It's easy.
Seems like some private companies are having success with that, offering $100 bonuses. I can't remember which ones right now, but
$100? What do you want me to do with $100? Put it in my eye?
Buy Beeble's NFT. Buy 100 of them.
Maybe we're the idiots. We should have waited so we get a cash payout. Oh yeah, $10,000. I'll take it. Sure.
what Ohio
Negotiate.
Didn't Ohio just give away some huge thing? But they started it like really late. Like, wait a minute, if you waited this long and they're incentivizing you now, they're almost rewarding your bad behavior,
Right?
Because you waited so long.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
that's how life always is. The people that are like quote unquote responsible kind of have to eat shit versus the people that are dragging their feet a bit.
Yeah. And
Society slows down for the slowest participant in any decision.
I don't know. I just feel like there's, again, I'm just happy to be vaccinated, but like, why is it that something that it clearly could just be a simply selfish thing to do? It's like, hey, you hate the pandemic? Me too. That's why I got vaccinated. It doesn't have to be this value system thing. It'd be like, because all those 65-year-olds who got it first, like, even if they were like, I don't think this thing was overblown, and they're still talking about how it was overblown. But it's like, dude, you got vaccinated first, okay? Everybody else is left in the dust, and you're just like, you have the balls to flaunt it now. Like, I think we'll look back on this to say that, it was mismanaged. It's like, come on. Privileged all the way to the bank. It's just like, anyway.
Yeah, all the way away from the morgue too. Which
Right. Yeah.
Pretty
Anyway,
sweet consequence.
I feel bad that I want to reaffirm, I'm not an anti-masker. I am not.
No one's
else.
worried about that.
No one is, yeah.
We know you're in good company here.
But
Yeah.
all those people.
Well, speaking of the mask thing, they recently used that sort of as the incentive. Be like, hey, you get the vaccine, you can take your mask off. That's what
Right.
they ended up doing, which is kind of the right thing to do. Being like, there is a point to this,
That's true.
right? So,
Yeah.
$100. What are you gonna do with that? What are you gonna do with that? You're right.
Think about if you
But taking
invested
your
in-
mask off, what would you pay for that? My God, that's $1,000. That's maybe $1,029.
Or think of if you were holding a major stock of masks. how pissed he'd be right now.
Yeah.
Tell you the big mask lobby was
Big mask. Yeah.
I would love to see the marketing spend dollars on masks, like leading into the vaccine season, because how many? This is a funny kind of question. How many masks do you guys own? Because I was just cracking jokes like, what are you gonna the other day? What are you gonna do with them now? Because it's
like reusable ones, like probably 4.
Okay.
And then medical grade ones, however many are lying around the house.
Yeah, I just at a certain
I kept
point
getting them from people, and I have maybe 10 now. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah. So much for environmentalism.
Jesus.
The fast fashion movement even hit the mask thing.
Yeah. I just used a clothespin for a while.
That voice is the best.
Yeah.
The wood.
No, I had 1 or 2 reusable, maybe 3, but they always fogged up my glasses. So I always went back to the lightweight, blue medical. I know it was probably not the best, but hey, I made it.
You made it, man. You made it.
We
all
talk
did.
about it just being like, you talk to that one guy who got it, and you're like, whoa, man, you're pretty wild.
I got it on purpose.
You did it, dude.
Bro, did you do the vid, bro?
Yeah. Like somebody took acid or
I
something.
got the vid twice, man. I saw some things.
Yeah. But I'm just happy we're out of it. And,
Absolutely.
The fact that we can kind of, we're just, it's like leaving a party and talking shit on the way home, It's just like, hey, did you see it? The hostess didn't wash their hands. Like, they were making, I didn't touch the sloppy joes, It's like, oh no. I am curious to see, like, if it will scar people that would normally not be, like, kind of OCD, like, overly cleanly.
Yeah,
I
people
feel like
develop, like, germophobia.
I've seen some of that. I've seen some
Yeah.
OCD action from some closer folks in my life.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about that it's like, okay, we really have to wash our hands 1,000 times a day. Because, there's, like, microflora on our skin, right? And you're, like, burning your bacteria.
No.
Macro who? Flowers? What about flour?
I love to bring up that stat.
Somebody told me I got microflowers in my ass.
Your body has more bacterial cells than human cells.
Yeah.
You could argue you're more accurately labeled as a bacterial colony, walking bacterial colony, than
That's
some
true.
walking mammal cell.
Walking bag of germs. This old dust of bones here?
Yeah. How do you know that the intestines are capitalists?
How?
Because all the microflora are saying sell, sell, sell. I just tried that one out.
Like
Pretty good.
no, dude,
That's pretty. I thought you actually planned that.
speaking my language too. I'm loving it. Shit.
Yeah.
All that CNBC talk is getting us going.
I know. Once you get me going on,
That's incredible. It's
convertible annuities, look out. Is that even a thing? I don't know.
Yeah, you'd be a sucker not to pick up some Freeport McMoran at this point. The numbers they put up are unbelievable. So
You need a Jim Cramer board. I like it.
I do.
Booyah.
That's gonna happen at some point. Yeah,
It's right here. This is the thing that'll do it.
I'm gonna hint to it, and then eventually it'll evolve its way there.
Yeah. Well, since it's kind of an audio thing, a couple things we were to agree to talk a little bit about music.
Let's do that.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not just about NFTs and crypto bubbles. If we
Right.
could.
Just like all these things that people are probably rolling their eyes. I'd be like, I already saw the CNBC coverage of that.
Yeah.
Oh, we could talk about UFOs too, and not it. Like I feel like I was the first guy wearing a tinfoil hat on your podcast, talking about all this other stuff. But I'm not even.
No, Matt has been beating that drum.
Okay.
My
I don't
cousin's
wanna-
been hitting that, and he literally a couple hours ago he was sending me the 60 minutes footage that they
Right.
just had. He was still updating me.
It was only 5 minutes. Let's be clear. That show, I was expecting some kind of special. They really buried the lead. I had to watch some other bullshit, But we're talking about music. Okay, so I'm gonna make a claim here is that I think that this the aesthetic of music moving forward for the hip people is as corny as it gets, right?
We're due for earnestness, happiness.
Right. Summed up in the tone of the keyboards in Money for Nothing by Dire Straits.
Oh man.
I don't know this.
Oh man.
You
Oh,
Dire Straits. Yeah.
I want my MTV.
See,
The first animated music video.
Oh my god, dude.
And then what's his name? Mark Knopfler.
Mark Knopfler. Dude, by the way, no joke. Mark Knopfler is fucking boss.
I wouldn't
okay?
disagree with you at all.
This is all news to me. No,
come
help me out. Help me
He's
out.
a Steely Dan newbie too.
Dude,
But
I've
he's learning,
been hitting
but
the
he's
Steely
learning.
Dan. I just loaded up. I got a new turntable recently. I just got Royal Scam, Katie Lied,
Lord.
Countdown to Ecstasy, and Pretzel Logic, all on vinyl.
Ah, damn, great,
Dude.
4 out of the
I'm a
6
Dan fan.
major from that period.
Dan fan.
You know, talk about corny music. I just found Steely Dan, and I think one of the reasons I got so into them at the end of the pandemic is because it was so happy and it was so light and
Well, so that's
funny, almost like
Yeah.
half musical comedy.
I didn't know we'd be talking about Steely Dan. This is great.
It's happening, man.
You know what? I
It's
think we should have a
happening.
dedicated night.
Steely Dan section. Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, what I love about it is that I appreciate bands because there's very few of them that have storyteller style songs, right? Like it's like first or third person. What type of perspective you bring to your songs? What I love about Steely Dan is they're telling it in a way where there's multiple characters.
Yeah.
A lot of them are a little shifty.
Hipsters,
like oh,
grifters.
Dude, we're smoking with the boys upstairs when I heard about the whole affair. It's just like these little glimpses or images that you can kind of. I just love how they come together. There's enough there to kind of give you a storyline, but you kind of have to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, it's not spoon fed.
Right.
They're details of a life. Even if you don't get every brushstroke, you get enough to put it together in your mind. I love it too. They do an incredible job coming up with a whole cast of characters, and sometimes you don't even know who they're talking about. Right? It's going from Babylon Sisters to a guy named Deacon Blues.
Deacon Blues, yeah.
Damn, dude. I mean, have you dug into the full catalog yet?
Okay, I went fucking nuts where I would just listen to Steely Dan for like a month, and I just went from the first album to the last album over and over and over and over again.
Can I get it? I told you so. Fuck yeah,
Happily.
dude.
I podcasted about this a few episodes ago. I was kind of talking about how, like, growing up, I had this impression that they were lame or
man.
corny or something.
They're just too cool for school.
It was just
man.
dumb hipster bullshit. Like, they're fucking great. The instrumentation, the mixing. I'm super into audio engineering
Michael
now.
McDonald. Say no more. Like,
As a background singer.
yeah.
Jeez.
Seriously.
love it.
This is great.
Dude,
We
man.
got on the Asia album. We even got there, too. You don't have that one on vinyl
I don't
yet?
have it on vinyl yet. I was walking out of the vinyl shop spending $100. I was like, they had Asia there and Gaucho. And I was just like,
Those would be some
I
of-
can't spend more than $100 in one day on
dude,
only Steely Dan.
I'll get all the other ones. You got half of them. I'll buy the other ones, and we can just
Dude.
swap back and forth. We'll just make that.
God,
We'll just
dude.
make that
A
happen.
Stan swap, as they like to call him.
Dude.
Or Steely Dan, shorten it to Stan.
But let me give me some Dire Straits, because maybe a connection even to Steely Dan if possible. Or who
It's
that
a
guy is.
similar like aesthetic. I think if you can have the humility to realize, like, hey, I came late to this game, which I did, right? I heard the reason I knew who Steely Dan was is because I would go to the chiropractor office and like Do It Again would be on.
Do it, yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the first one,
It's
right?
like the perfect like soft rock thing. It just had a bad rap, but man, really what it was is a friend of mine named Dan showed me his dad. We listened like on vinyl in high school to Katie Lied. And there's just some really great tracks on that record that, I'd maybe heard on like the oldies stations and stuff. But I mean, if you played guitar, like there's just everything you need. But it took me a little while. And it wasn't until like years later after college when my buddy put on Gaucho on vinyl. And I was just like, holy shit, this is...
They said it's one of the best mixed albums of all time.
Yeah. That in Asia, I mean, Gaucho, I think is... You have to be mature enough as a Steely Dan fan, I think. Like, it just depends where you started with Steely Dan. Like, if you think of, like, the first two albums as your Steely Dan, and then you jump to, like, Gaucho, I mean, it's definitely synthier.
Yeah.
And...
It's 1980 at that point.
Right.
By Gaucho, yeah.
But, I mean...
Supposedly they lost the footage or the audio recordings for Gaucho. Some intern like erased like a year, like literally a year's worth of work, and they had to go back and like redo it.
Do
And
it
then they
again. Do it again by Steely Dan.
Yeah.
Go
Ooh,
back, Jack,
ouch.
do it again.
Yeah. You got a handle in your hand, It's like... like, that's what I'm saying. It's just, like, so specific. You just be like...
Learn to
now you're
work the
back in
saxophone.
Vegas,
The
Oh,
sitar
dude.
solo
played
and Do It
just what
Again
I feel.
also. Or it might have been an electric sitar solo.
It's funny you brought up Do It Again, because actually my first more recent Steely Dan exposure was Do It Again. We played Austin's Bros graduation party, and they put Do It Again on because Austin's an incredible like guitar soloist, and we had an incredible keyboard soloist, and it's got like great solo sections for all that. And I really never played any rock-based music that had a lot of solo sections. I was in a jazz band for like high school, and I learned to appreciate having
Sign In Stranger, those fills, dude. Give me the chills just thinking about it.
Stranger. Yeah,
I'm never gonna do it without the fez on.
that one. Yeah, that and green earrings. I mean,
oh God. Anyway,
you also mentioned guitar too. I bought a Strat, my first Strat, around the same time I got obsessed with Steely Dan because they have so many amazing, clean guitar tones in that.
Incredible.
It's clearly like all these like amazing single coil notes. Do It Again. Like when we played that, Austin, for Dylan's, was that your major Steely Dan exposure? Do you feel like you had a good concept?
My father didn't like Steely Dan, so I very much stayed away. But I was like, it's a band and whatever. And then I heard Do It Again. And I was like, what the fuck am I missing out on? I still haven't done the deep dive like I know you have, but man, I have to do it. I have to do
Obsession, I think, is the word. I don't even know if deep dive is.
Obsession.
I went nuts, and I'm still going nuts. Like, it's still the thing I want to play. Because once you find something like that, you have to come up with something better if you're going to listen to music, right? Like,
oh, man. Dude.
That's been like my Tame Impala for a while. Tame Impala, Thundercat.
Exactly.
I've been down the rabbit hole. Unknown Mortal Orchestra is another guy. He's insane.
Yeah, I like those guys, again, like they kind of, like I think that they're, like I was there, you know what I mean? Like I was there for the summer of Chillwave, It was like 2011, washed out, fucking Neon Indian and
Pretty Lights
Toro y Moi.
He was older. He's like 2013, like Deadmau5 and those guys. But then it was all sample-based old jazz albums. I love Pretty Lights.
Dude. Well, and that's the thing is like that stuff, and maybe there's something to go back to with those, like, so much of those were like about the scene and all that stuff that doesn't really even exist anymore. But what I'm saying with Steely Dan is it's opened my eyes to a whole other range of tones, like appreciating the production, the musicality, like the craft of putting these albums together. That's helped me shift away from like, hey, I don't listen to bands like that. You know what I mean? It's a musician's type of band where there's enough there to keep you busy for years. But it's also kind of like, I'm laughing at myself because it's like stuff I never thought I'd love listening to. So there's a couple albums. The first week when I started noticing I was like making that shift was Warren Zevon. Have you ever gotten into him?
No.
Okay. Warren Zevon, great storytelling, similar like snapshots, detailed, but it's also like got this really dark humor to it.
Great.
So I'm sure you know like Werewolves of London, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But like the line of, he's just like, you better stay away from him, Jim. He'll you better stay away from him. He'll rip your lungs out, Jim. It's like, but I'd love to meet his tailor. It's like shit like that. It's just like that character. Okay. I want to know more about, right? But so there's another one. The album to start with is called Excitable Boy, and it's got this like upbeat, kind of like really well produced stuff, and it's just the darkest fucking lyrics, like. I mean, and it's like almost like jarring to hear them. The self-titled song, "The Excitable Boy," is just about this person who just like commits these like terrible acts. But the song is like super
major
uplifting.
Key, so.
Yeah, another one is called Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner, and it's about like the CIA and like these like African like death squads. There's one called Lawyers, Guns, and Money, and it's about like some hipster traveling in South America and like getting involved in some Russian plot. But it's like the best.
It's interesting.
His honesty, like, it'll be like a ballad. There's another one on a different album. I can't remember what it is, but like the way he uses lyrics of like saying, there's like a chorus like, and I'm all strung out on heroin on the outskirts of town. It's like super literal, but like that's enough. Like that jars you out of like what you typically expect of a band to be like metaphorical.
Yeah.
And it's like irreverent, dark, but it's just like gives me the chills. It's different enough that I've just experienced like his consistency over his career something to look at. Anyway, that was a long
Warren Zevon?
Warren Zevon, yeah.
It reminds me of the storytelling is like Hey Yeah by Outkast.
Oh,
famously has some of the darkest storylines about like staying together for the kids or like divorce or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it's getting and connecting to some of the narratives, like being drawn in by that. I've learned to appreciate more. And then, yeah, so Dire Straits, again, some of the corniest tones. Okay,
Sultans of Swing. If
that sounds familiar.
Da da da, ba ba da da, you know.
Yeah, and the Sultans.
Sorry, guys.
Oh man,
I wish.
Oh,
I've heard it. Those names too. I've seen it on lists, and I just right now I'm not.
And that's just the thing.
neuron's
All I'm
not
trying
firing.
to
I gotta
say
be
though
honest,
is I know you've heard the songs. And
Yeah.
if you didn't have this precursor, you probably wouldn't stick with it. Because like the other song is called The Walk of Life on this one, the main hit album. And it's like da 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 da. You've heard this song.
That sounds familiar.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the corniest song. And the way I got into Dire Straits was through a joke YouTube channel that's called The Walk of Life Project. And it's the claim of this YouTube channel is that The Walk of Life, the song by Dire Straits, could be the ending music for any movie ever made. And it's literally the endings of every single movie with that song, and it's fucking perfect.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about now. You've got me to Dire Straits at this point.
Yeah.
At what point is a band considered to be musical comedy? Because if we're talking about like corny music,
Slide whistles.
slide whistles will do it. That'll definitely put
Even
you
in a death metal band, right? If it's a you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I've been wondering that about Steely Dan though, because some of it's like pretty fucking funny. Like they're definitely making some hardcore jokes, but they have, they always say Steely Dan's like your favorite musician's band sort of thing. So they have definite audio credit, right, from people.
Right.
But I don't know, is Dire Straits like verging on the point maybe of being a little comedic, and maybe that's why it works so good for the jovial relief at the end of a movie? Is it something you have to declare before you go in, like Lonely Island? Like it has to clearly be coming from SNL or some sort of comedic source. Flight of the Conchords on HBO's One Night Stand, putting out some sort of comedic thing. Where's the line between normal bands and comedic, and how does corniness play into all that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like they weren't trying to be corny when they wrote it. I think that's the difference. The unawareness of it, just not understanding that it is so corny. I mean, it's just a fucking good melody that you write. But Flight of the Conchords seems to be a little bit more intentional about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? They are a comedy duo.
They're very over the top.
Yeah.
Very much over the top.
And they're referencing it after the fact. Like, I think it's... So, I don't know if you had a similar experience, but... Okay, Eric Clapton. Okay? My head was right at the point where, of course, Cream, Blind Faith, Derek and the Dominoes.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Warm Tones, Analog. I mean...
Fuck yeah.
It's just golden sunsets, like nobody's going to say no. I mean, when you're talking about rock and roll, that's rock and roll, right? Yeah. But, somebody would put on something off a slow hand, like, and it would be, it's what it was for me for a long time was the drums, the way that the drums were mic'd. I think they just had the technology around like the late 70s just got better, and they just had these fucking clean ass drums. And I just like, no, I can't do this. It's too clean. Same thing with Tom Petty. I was just like, this is like, it's too sanitized. I want raw. I want fuzz. I want this, Jimi Hendrix, like guitar on fire.
I'm with you on that.
But
Pearl Jam just released a record like 2, maybe 3 years ago, and it was like EDM drums. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Did they really?
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. I was not a big fan of it. It was like an EP of 2 songs. It was electronic. I was like...
And they release this as a comedy album, you're saying?
It had to have been. It had to have been.
All right, we're going to try something different.
Right.
We want to play Bonnaroo on the comedy stage this year.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Comedy stage.
Yeah. I never really thought about the name Pearl Jam until maybe 3 years ago, and realized what that is.
A good ass jam. I
No.
I haven't thought about
I'm just thinking about it now.
But do you get it?
I don't.
Okay. See, this is where I was like, I've always thought that was kind of a lame name I was like, Pearl Jam. Okay. But then just because it's rock and roll, somehow I made and this could be wrong. Maybe it's a sick thing, but Okay, think about like if it was raspberry jam. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
what would pearl jam be?
Come.
Exactly.
Is that what it is?
I that's
So
what I'm
they
saying.
are a comedy band.
Yeah.
They're a comedy band. They're a comedy band.
Yeah.
I always think every time I hear Pearl Jam, I think of like the drum Pearl drums.
Right.
I mean, there's no correlation. It's just the first thing that pops in my head.
I'm just saying is like I don't know if I'm maybe I just it was like a Freudian bong hit or something. But
There's Burnt Jam. They have Burnt Jam, Weezer.
yeah. So I don't know. That was just
It's
it was
interesting.
an anecdote. I don't know if it's true.
They're a rock band. It's a
I haven't
possibility.
even-
It's possible. It is possible. It is possible. Eddie Vedder too. You never know.
Yeah.
He's a Chicago area guy. Does he have some Chicago roots? He likes the Cubs.
Yeah. I thought he was.
Oh,
a
they're
Seattle.
Seattle.
guy,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Why does he love Chicago Cubs then? Doesn't he love Chicago Cubs?
I think Chicago Cubs though were one of the only teams that had national broadcasting rights throughout for a long time. So a lot of people liked the Cubs all over the country, especially through Harry Carey and all that stuff. So I think
his father was famously murdered by a Mariner at some point. No, I don't know.
Oh yeah,
But he's like, I couldn't love the Seattle team. It's just not the same.
yeah.
It could be that. A lot of instruments have what is it called, mother of pearl, where it's like
Inlays. Yeah.
that sort of pearl reflective element that they put on like pick guards and whatnot. So maybe they all happen to have mother of pearl instruments at the time, or it's a cum thing.
I'm leaning more towards the cum at this point.
I am not saying that I never thought of it. It was just
It's
literally a
good- it's
random
good.
observation. So another 90s thing, it is kind of funny, is if there was an Instagram account somebody posted, and it's like called Bands of the 90s. And it was just all these like videos of like live performances and like, late night show appearances of these 90s bands. And I realized like, you know what? I don't really have a visual memory of a lot of these groups. So it's like, that song everybody does at karaoke is it Sheryl Crow, Zombie? Or no, that's Cranberries.
Cranberries, yeah.
Well, like Sheryl Crow, some of those people like
Oh.
they were looking good. Like they were young. I always pictured in my head like, oh, these are old people singing, right?
Yeah.
But like, man, like they were like stars and good looking people like in their prime, and like I'm older than they were back then. I'm just like, shit, dude. Like
That's a pretty
pass me
big
by.
mindfuck. Yeah. If I could look like Shania Twain in '95,
right.
I'd be sitting pretty right now.
Man, I feel like a woman.
I'm excited for music. I'm excited to obviously play music with both of you. We might play music right after this podcast, right? We were talking about having a Pearl Jam after this thing. About getting out in on that.
Or a Limp Bizkit.
But how,
Did you see the Lollapalooza lineup? Someone literally blew out all the names of the lineup. It just left Limp Bizkit. So it's like Lollapalooza lineup,
No.
just Limp Bizkit.
They're playing?
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude. Apparently, I haven't validated this, but apparently, who was the guy who did Total Request Live on MTV?
Carson Daly.
Apparently, Fred Durst is like a close personal friend, and he like
That seems about right.
muscled Limp Bizkit into existence, like, and got him set up with the whole thing because they were huge.
They were.
Yeah, and I didn't know what Nookie meant, like until maybe
all about
10
it,
years
though.
ago. It's such an outdated term.
It's all about the making whoopee, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Would Limp
knocking boots.
Limp Bizkit, would that have come up without talking about musical comedy? Because that's another amazing example of a musical comedy band that's actually not considered comedy. But, chocolate starfish and a hot dog flavored water, all this
Wait, what does that mean? No.
No, but
Is that a delectable treat from the Bahamas?
they weren't even inching up to the line. They were taking their dicks out and pissing over the line. I mean, give me a break. Like, they were clearly funny. The guitar player, bass player, whatever, he did a bad Kiss makeup job.
Really?
He would have black contact lenses. Do you remember the visuals for Limp Bizkit?
I never was allowed to see it. It was like we didn't have MTV in our home, so be like on vacation or something. We'd get cable in the hotel room, or at like my cousin's house. Like they'd be like, "We're going to the water park." We're like, "No, let's stay watch MTV."
But Carson Daly is the one that helped get them in the industry.
I heard that through somebody.
Interesting.
But there's also a cool video of Rage Against the Machine playing at like the 1996 DNC outside.
Yeah, next to the bull statue or something like that, right? In New York?
I thought this was
It was
in
like
like
a protest.
California or something. It might have been a protest, but it was like a legit stage and like a insane crowd. Like,
God, the DNC is not cool anymore.
I know.
Compared to that, Jesus.
man, they booked Rage, dude. That's
They
insane.
booked Rage. Now they got Eric Andre just around the corner in the front of the gate out front.
Oh my god, dude! Eric Andre is a genius. Did you watch the movie?
I did not. I've been meaning to.
Yeah,
My cousin interviewed him for. He works at Loyola.
What?
The school. It was like a college
that's
tour type
crazy.
thing. So he got to interview him, and as he was doing it, he took a screenshot of my buddy's face and then made it his green screen. So he's talking to Eric Andre while his green screen face is behind Eric Andre,
That's
and he was like a whack job the whole interview.
Oh, I bet, man. Yeah, I remember the first time I saw his stuff. Me and my brother went to New York for a weekend just for fun, and he had an iPad, and we're sitting waiting for our flight, which was delayed, and he just started showing me. The intro, dude, gets me every time.
Yeah.
Just destroying the set.
Like fast-paced jazz, and he's diving through the sign.
You know what? The other one that just kills me is it was very specific. Like, it's not a laugh track. It's just this guy.
Yeah! I have the sample. I fucking watched an episode. I took it out. I knew exactly where you're going.
Yeah, dude.
It's just they'll say something like, we have, they'll talk to a guest, and they'll be like, what's new with you? He's like, well, I guess I've been doing painting. Yeah! It's every
One
time.
guy.
It's like an internet.
That's great.
I'll send it to you if you want the
Hard to
sample.
beat that intro on that show, though. My
Oh
lord.
my god, dude! And the last thing I'll say is my favorite bit is when Tyler Creator comes on. They just cut away, and he sits down. I was like, "Yeah, how you doing?" He's just like, "I'm good." He's just like, "Tyler's dad's here," and then they they show this shot up to the rafters, and there's just like little man in the shadows, and he just
It's like an old white guy with facial features that are drooping. He's like, Tyler, your dad's here. And then it pans back to him. He's crying. He's got one single tear coming out because he's on with the bit.
so bizarre.
And then there's a guy just shooting a gun,
Here we are, describing other videos on a podcast, but I'm sorry.
There's always some of that. You gotta kiss the ring. You gotta show respect to some of the innovators. I like to start each podcast episode with a different theme song. So I like that he destroys a different set. That's
true.
Definitely within the love of this show here. So
I wonder how long you can keep it up, though, because
He's done
people
5
are
seasons,
onto it.
right?
Yeah.
But he's gained 50 pounds for this season and then shaved all the hair off his body, including his eyebrows. Wow. In the last season, he grew his hair out, and lost 50 pounds. He's just doing crazy shit.
did you watch the movie?
I've watched
Bad
some of the
Trip? Is that what it's
highlights.
called?
Yeah. It's a little.
You watched the
It's
highlights?
a little in your face. Yeah. My brother, he watched it and showed me some of the funniest parts, but.
On an iPad in an airport?
Yeah. Oh my god, dude. Yeah, it's definitely. It's similar to a lot of the stuff he's done, but it's.
He's got a wonderful spirit.
Well, we did have a conversation about this, though. It's definitely gross out humor is an aspect of it, but it's also just absurd. But, with regard to Hollywood in general, because it was the number one watched thing, and we were commenting oh, is this the Jackass of this generation?
Hell yeah.
All these
Isn't
high
it?
school kids oh, dude, Eric Andre's the best.
He's fucking a gorilla, dude, in the zoo.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm curious but at the same time, I was the number one thing on Netflix for a while. It's poop jokes, it's kind of it's gross out humor. But what I'm curious about is movies, when they would talk about it's over the top. It was always explicit stuff. It was either violence or sex. What's interesting is that's what's pushing the limits now. Or I'm curious if you guys have a perspective. Is that absurdism and poop jokes and nudity, male nudity, the new safe zone? Because I think
it is.
Must be.
It's doable terrain.
Yeah, but I think but ironically, compared to some of the more, I don't know, romantic, conventional Hollywood nudity stuff, I feel it's safer to do all this gross out stuff than it would be to kind of do a complicated straight sex scene, right? I think there's more questions.
Yeah.
It's true. I had this friend once that was very socially conscious oriented, and they were specifically talking about calling everyone an asshole. You can call everyone an asshole because everyone's got an asshole. And you're bringing up poop jokes, right? So everyone can laugh at poop jokes because everybody poops.
Right.
Definitely something there.
I was thinking about this today on my way here, and then I thought it was a stupid idea, but I'll run it past you guys. So what if, just a hyperlink, you can, I'm calling it a hyperlink, Yeah.
An e-text.
Yeah.
Smart URL.
Smart
It's
URL.
a URL, right? It's a link in the text. It would be interesting, just like in your emojis, how you can select, like, say, the skin color of a hand. Okay? It'd be interesting if in your texting there was a drop-down menu. If you were about to say something or reference something, that you could select, like, hey, this word would be controversial if I meant it the way that it's used. But, like, not just for irony, but, like, I'm using this word as it was used in the 90s. You know? Like, it's part of the joke, right? Like, how can you communicate, like, via text? Because
I
it's
don't know
so
if
specific.
I get it.
So, like, you could click on the word, you'd be like, I'm offended by that. Be like, oh, wait, this word that is offending me is hyperlinked. And it's like, oh.
To the dictionary.com version of the word you're trying to explain?
Yeah,
Is that what
he's
you mean?
using it in this reference, right? Like, I don't know how to make it. So, back to Dire Straits. Okay. The song.
Yep.
My MTV. So, what's interesting about this song is apparently it was written after either Mark Knopfler, because Sting is the backup singer in this track. So, it's a collab. Okay.
Big Police fan here. So.
Right. So,
Sold.
apparently they were together in New York shopping for TVs or something, and they overhear these two guys, like two blue collar guys, seeing and watching Mark Knopfler it was like some musician, but it was probably Sting. And the conversation and the lyrics of the song are about, like, look at them yo-yos. That's the way you do it. Get your money for nothing and your chicks for free. You know, and they're talking about these people on MTV making all this money. But the thing is they overhear these guys say that little, so it's like the word starts with an F and it's a sexuality slur, right?
Okay.
Rhymes with maggots.
Okay. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
little flies.
But it's in the song. But it's like, it's also him quoting this conversation he overheard. And that's what the song is about. It's like these kind of blue collar guys mocking what they do as artists and, like, how much money they make, you know. But it's a repeated theme in that song. But, like, how could you, here I can't even tell the lyrics of the song.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? How can you build in, because I think half of the battle of some of these things, and, you know, this, I'm annoyed when people take a bad faith approach to, like, the cancel culture and stuff. You're like, we need to be able to actually talk about it and to know, like, hey, we're having a sincere conversation where this, you know, this isn't aimed at hate. It's talking about an artifact or it's talking about, you know, something that can be appreciated beyond. I'm sure there's people who disagree with me on that, but I mean, it'd be like I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks. So, like, oh, you know, a couple books I pretended to read in high school for homework, you know? So Heart of Darkness was one of them. But there's a lot of the N-word in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the tricky part of an audiobook is some guy got hired to say that word a lot, right? And now you're listening to it. And, like...
That or they just bought an NFT of him saying it once.
Right.
Oh, my God. Or they have enough of him reading the rest of the book. He's like, I'm not going to say this word.
Right.
And they AI had stitched it back together.
But the thing is, like, I was in a situation where there's several recorded versions of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember reading it. It was done by a prominent actor, you know, something like that. Like, Audible exclusive. James Franco reads, you know, Heart of Darkness. And I'm like, I don't care if he's got a terrible voice anyway. Anyway, but it's
Seth
like
Rogen, right?
like several of the reviews are just like, FYI, this is a substantially edited version of the script to exclude some of the more disturbing aspects. Like, the book is about disturbing aspects.
It's tough.
Right? And I'm not saying that, like, I disagree, but the thing is when you're, like, that's what the is of the book. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're hiding what the author originally wrote, which either is good or bad.
Right.
I mean...
I'm not saying that
The scary part is when maybe a lesson is lost here, or we have to repeat some element of history because we've intentionally censored ourselves from being able to learn a lesson, right?
Right. Well, and you
scary
find
thought.
that, like, for example, calling someone a Nazi is a completely diluted thing that means nothing.
Right.
Right? Which is
Yeah.
right, because, like, but when you could actually find some facts for it, but then you can take these things out of context, which are generally a certain percentage of the usage of certain words are not meant to cause hate, right? And they get misconstrued for being the devil, right? We're creating the devil in these languages, not because I disagree about, like, I disagree universally with, using language to disparage, but if your goal is to fight hatred and bigotry and stuff like that, the words are the least of your problem. Like, it's the hate and the bigotry. It's education.
Yeah.
It's all these things. Anyway.
You brought up annotation for what the word could be, or maybe as a tool to sort of derive some sort of meaning, like it's like a douche radar for whether this is in good faith or whether it's douchey.
PolitiFact.
Yeah, that type of thing. Really, that's an option. And you could argue that's kind of happening. I mean, China has some sort of Black Mirror-esque social accountability rating system, right? Where the people are able to vote, like, is this cool or is this not cool? Right. You'd have to wonder if that would fall subject to a lot of the political pressures that we see in our system now, where the people with the most extreme voices maybe speak the loudest, or at least speak most often due to their, fervor and interest in that particular niche subject, and then they end up shaping the conversation disproportionate to public opinion.
Right.
Which is tough. Like, who gets to choose the annotation, right?
That's true.
How does that happen? Because then you're just getting like some sort of app where people are able to thumbs up, thumbs down. It's like the Siskel and Ebert of intention on things, and then you're just every statement you want to make, you have to at least win 51% of the people to get the green thumbs up versus the red thumbs down.
Yeah, but I think that's the other part too that is interesting.
Keeps people safe.
Well, it keeps people safe, but it's
also...
I'm
sorry, it keeps the art. It keeps the expression safe, which maybe isn't the most accurate or full lesson that needs to be served, especially, like you're saying, assuming someone has good intention and someone is trying to paint a full picture here. But,
I mean, and that's why I ultimately ended up like, this sounds impractical and possibly like leading to more problems. You could abuse it, you could do whatever, but my point is I think there's so much of like the political reactionary stuff that plays the biggest role. Like, it's fear mindset, even on the left. Like, if you're obsessed with that stuff, I think it shows that you are actually very insecure in your view. It's a more performative thing. And like, here we go, like this annotation, would it facilitate, oh, well, actually, in order to send this text message, I have to get 50% approval before I get this out the door, right?
Jesus.
Like, sometimes by committee, it doesn't really even make sense. And I think that for artists in particular, forget about timing for making a joke, right? I mean, if you had to do that. But I do think that
you'd be doing the math in your head before you said anything.
Right. So I just find it a fascinating conversation. I'm more just, really what it is I hate Ted Cruz. You know what I mean? Just a universal, I'm all for fighting hatred, except if it's towards Ted Cruz and everything he represents.
This is either going to go down talking about Dr. Seuss books, or it's going to talk about Ted Cruz. But yeah, let's hit
you know what
Ted
I mean?
Cruz.
Yeah.
Ted Cruz, if he played an instrument, what instrument would Ted Cruz play?
Tuba or bassoon.
Yeah, I feel like he would play a cat. You know how
he'd pull a cat till
like a bagpipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a sociopath.
Yeah, Did you ever see those old videos of him in college where he's like 19 years old and he is trying to be so calculated and send across a certain message?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, think about. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. Another thing I was thinking about with the annotation is the concept of how there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Oh, sure.
So then people can use this, maybe this thing is meant to be more thoughtful and elevate the conversation, maybe just by getting like free marketing. Because a lot of times when they ban things, like they jump to the top of the bestseller list. And Ted Cruz is a funny example because like he had that recent political snafu where his people were in dire straits in Texas.
Cue the whole song, play it right now during the podcast.
They were in rough shape, and he went to Mexico to party with his family. And in a way, like, he's being rewarded for his bad behavior by the fact that everyone talks about him, and then he has like now a bigger role in society. Like, he's almost like he's he's by acting poorly, he's giving us the impression that he's worthy of commentary. I mean, he's coming up on this show, right? He's getting our airtime.
Yeah.
So it's funny how that stuff works, where
he's one of the greatest comedians of our time. Mad respect, you know.
Is he in Bad Trip? Is he in the Eric Andre movie? That'd be great if seems like more of a Sasha.
Well, that's
Baron
the other
Cohen
thing
type
though,
thing.
is like it's I think what's the difficulty is like somebody like Rudy Giuliani has jumped the shark. It's like
Yeah,
by calling him
Great
a joke,
expression.
you're actually minimizing how seriously pernicious he is and what he represents. Like I think that's what is tough, I think, for how we've managed even some of the Trump legacy is we've called it absurd, but in reality that covers up the fact that we were flirting with some really dangerous things, and through awkwardness or nervousness we were laughing about it instead of acknowledging it. And you can see how people like him, you know, Cruz, they rely on people's politeness or inability to express exactly what they're uncomfortable about, just like a rapist or someone who is like grooming somebody for manipulation. They look for that in people, right? And they can find, you know, they're smart enough to know which people are susceptible.
Like the sympathy type thing. I'd like that, you know, not even to bring up the guys, you know, Ted Bundy used to have like a cast or whatever, and like he'd have someone help him out, and he'd hit him
Right.
with the cast.
And that's the scary part, is he's that self-aware and sophisticated. Like he's beyond whether it was a coping mechanism for always being the butt of the joke, or, you know, he's not savable as a person or redeemable in any way, you know, and will burn in hell that I don't even believe in, but I hope exists for him.
He'll at
You
least
know?
chill in purgatory for like 10 minutes longer than he would want to. You know?
Yeah.
At least.
Sorry. I feel
At
I
least.
rarely talk about damnation, you know.
Damnation, yeah, eternal damnation.
I apologize.
No, if anyone's deserving of it, it's definitely that man.
Yeah, and if you talk about Steely Dan enough in a podcast, you get a certain amount of good faith that you can burn on damnation. You know, you can
I'm
use
sorry.
that. You can use that up. Not I just mean in general. Like you
Yeah.
just got to keep the ratio right. We've been talking
That's
about
true.
comedy. We've been keeping it light.
Yeah. And I meant those things as comedy. Like this is a joke. I don't want this to be conveyed in any way as a, you know, too blue.
Oh
or
shit!
anything
You know,
like
we
that.
talked about annotation for those words. What if when someone goes to heaven, it's decided upon their mentions in podcasts over time, their mentions in tweets.
Oh, wow.
And if they have more
Yeah.
positive things, then they go to heaven. If they have more
Yeah.
negative things, they go to hell. And this is a touch point.
Whatever happened to the meek shall inherit the earth, man. I'm meeker than you.
Yeah.
Shout out to my dad for that joke. That was,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
You know, Catholic school paid off for something, you know. The Beatitudes, you ever get into those?
Beatitudes?
The Beatitudes.
You're setting
man.
me up. No.
No, it's a thing. I think it's kind of like a virtue. I don't remember what it was, but it's like a good one. One of my favorite words is transubstantiation. You know what that is?
That's the body of Christ being in the cracker, right?
It's the moment
It's the moment he.
where it transforms. But I mean, think about that. Like the transubstantiator, if that was a product, you could just turn whatever.
Yeah,
Water
my
into
my
wine.
Honda's got the Treb substantiator's a little wonky.
Yeah,
You take her in.
Yeah, sounds like a motorcycle going down the street. I told you my car got stolen, right? Years ago.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Oh, it was, man, you know, it was a bummer because I loved that car. It was just this red, so sporty. 2001 Dodge Caravan.
I've been
it
in one
was-
just like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It
My
had
folks have a Dodge Caravan right now too. Yeah.
dude, that did sound like a motorcycle. And one of the passenger side door, well, the story was
the slider or the.
it was the front door, the front passenger side got in an accident. Some old man looking into the sun, you know, just four-way stop. It's my turn. He just, sorry, don't got brakes.
I was checking if the sun was still there, and sure enough, it was.
Anyway, so smashed the door. I took it into the insurance. Like, yeah, it's gonna be like $2,200 of damage. And I was like, we looked up the value of the car. It was like $2,600, close to being total. We're like, put the door back on. We'll take it back. We'll bring it back. This old trick's good. It'll save you some cash in the future. You get a little ding. You take off the panel on the inside. You deflate a basketball, stick it in between like the outer wall and the inner wall, and then you pump up the basketball, pop it out from the inside.
Wow.
You're on the road, man. But the problem was the panel didn't go on all the way. Kind of broke some of those clips, and so had to duct tape the window back up. It was a mess. I had it for far too long. Guy stole it on Chicago Avenue and Noble. Disappears. I call it in. Hey, someone stole my car. It's not in the pound. Are you guys in tow it or something? Like, no. So I reported it stolen. They said, well, if we find it, do you want us to tow it? I said, absolutely not, because I know you're going to charge me to tow it.
Yeah.
Just let me know. He's like, okay, you want us to just let you know where it is? I'm like, yeah, please. And then I'll call the wreckers if it's totaled. A few weeks go by. I get a phone call about a month later, right?
It transubstantiated into a Mazda.
Yeah, it was a Miata, of all things.
A Miata, yeah.
So I get this call. It's a lady. She's like, hey, we've been... have you heard from us? I'm like, no. It's like, yeah, this is Chicago Police
Good way
Department.
to open a phone call.
The officer responsible for your car, long story short, he went on vacation and forgot to let you know. We found it about 3 weeks ago. It's in the pound. It's like, you towed it? It's like, yeah, of course we towed it. I was like, well, I told you not to. It's like, well, it's in the pound. Go get it. Go there. It's like $1,000 in fees because it's like $75 a day in the pound.
Communicate this, of course.
Right. So it's been sitting there for a while, and the car's worth nothing, but I haven't seen it yet. So I get in this car at the pound, and they're like, this guy with missing a couple teeth, hop in a Dodge Caravan to get out to the thing. He's like, what kind of car is it? I'm like, it was a 2001 Dodge Caravan. He's like, oh, motherfucker, look around. 2001 Dodge Caravan there. One there, one there, one there. He's like, yeah, and a couple Honda Civics from the 90s. Those are the two easiest cars to steal. All you need, screwdriver. You're all set. On the road in a second. I'm like, oh, that's great to know.
What?
Thanks. Yeah. He's like, okay, this should be you. You pull up to this thing, and of course, headlights pulled out, wheels pulled off. It's just complete junk. Windows smashed, and there was not most of my stuff was taken. There wasn't really much valuable in there, but
you didn't have any Steely Dan CDs in there, did you?
No, but my Tony Robbins tapes got stolen.
Shit.
Lacked motivation those couple weeks.
Hopefully that kid, turns his life around.
Hopefully he awakens the giant within.
Steely Dan was the guy who stole your car. They called him Steely Dan.
That's heartbreaking, though.
Yeah.
So,
that's sad.
Well, this is the issue is he's like, I go to look at the car, and he's like, oh, don't touch it. He said, you got to, I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you're not allowed to touch it. If it's in the pound, you got to pay your fees before you can touch the car. But since I'm a good guy, I'm going to go see if we can turn this thing on, see if it's worth anything. So he takes out a screwdriver, jams it in the ignition,
way.
Tries to turn it, it doesn't turn over. He's like, battery's probably dead, but yeah, this thing's a piece of crap, not worth anything. How much are the tow fees on this? I'm like, 1,000. He's like, forget about it, man. So I go back to the office and say, okay, well, what do? I can't pay this. Like, I can't sell it for scrap. He's like, yeah, if you wanted to sell it for scrap, you'd have to spend $150 to get the tow truck onto the lot. They're only going to pay me $350 in scrap, so I'm not making any money. Tow fees are way more than that. He said, you got to wait till Tuesday. It's probably like Wednesday or something. You got to wait till Tuesday. This office is only open one day a week. You're going to go between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. You got to show up at this little ticket window and say you want to transfer your title to the city because you don't want to pay the fee. So take off work, borrow my parents' car, drive to the place. There's a long fucking line. It's like a block long. Get in line.
People holding screwdrivers and shit.
Yeah. It's like a lot of people that they're running the scam on. Because at this point, I'm thinking, like, if this is the easiest car to steal, the city probably just hires them to steal these fucking cars. Keep them in the pound. Don't tell them, right?
Now you're thinking.
And then, so I'm waiting in line for about an hour. Lady kind of walks back, checking to make sure everyone's in the right place. She says, what are you here for? Drugs or prostitution? I'm like, neither.
Jesus.
He's like, well, you're in the wrong line. Like, well, I'm trying to give my car to the city. He's like, oh, just do that at the pound. I'm like, fuck. So I drive back to the pound and like finally just like.
Did this look like a drugs and prostitution line? I gotta know.
It was people who had their cars impounded because they got caught in prostitution or had drugs. Okay. And that's how they had to like file some appeal. Okay.
It's been a fun line, though, is all I'm saying.
But that's not the end, okay? So I drive back to the pound, and I talk to the people. They're like, just wait outside. We'll come get you when we're ready to talk to you. So I'm sitting out there, and there's all these tow truck drivers that sit around at the pound, you know, just kind of like, it's so creepy. There's this guy just like, they park and like look at the parking lot, anyone getting dropped off in a cab. And they'll stand, have the door open, they'll stand and like rest their elbow on the open window, looking out. They'll wait for like a cute girl to get out of the cab, and they'll just be like, honk the horn, like, hey babe, you okay? You know, like, right. Oh shit. Like, man.
I'm assuming you got just as warm a reaction.
Oh yeah. So I start talking to one of these guys, like, hey, everything all right, man? It's like, oh man, I got this car, it's in there, you know. It's like, oh dude, yeah, actually no problem. I know the guy, I'll be able to get on the lot for free. We'll sell this thing for scrap, we'll make a little money. I'm like, oh, okay. This guy will solve my problems.
Oh my God.
We're at like Sacramento and Grand, like, you know, not the, it's just like, you know what I mean. But
rough area.
Anyway, so he's like, oh, this is perfect, man. Okay, so I just talked to the guy. This is the thing. I got a guy coming down. He's going to come. He's got an extra truck because I got to go make a run. Tell you what, it's just down the block. Why don't you hop in the cab? I'll tell you about it on the way. So I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah. So I hop in the cab of this truck. Not thinking. Turns on the ignition and we just go. He drives deep into the west side, driving down blocks, and he's on like a repo job in the middle of the west side. Like, we're like 2 or 3 miles away from the pound. I'm just like, yeah, so when's your buddy getting here? He's like, oh, he's stuck in traffic. Don't worry. Hold on. Stay here. Lock the doors. Only let me in. I'm like, fuck.
Oh
so he's doing like a repo job. And we like,
the fuck?
Pulls this car on the back of the truck. And he's like, go. Okay, we're going. It's like people running out of the house, yelling and like chasing us down the block. He's blasting away.
Yeah.
And he's just like, holy shit, man, that was fucked up, right? I'm like, yeah, you're telling me. Like, dude, like, where are we? He's like, oh, it's no problem, man. We did it. It's all good. It's like,
He's got the adrenaline high over with. He almost got shot. You know, he almost had his. Oh, it's so funny.
And he's just like, yeah,
we're good, aren't we?
He's like, oh, we're going back to the pound. He's like, oh, no. We got to go drop this car back over here. I was like, no, we're not going over there. He's like, dude, what the fuck, man? I'm trying to help you out. I'm just like, holy shit. Like, this guy's getting mad. He's like, kind of got me hostage now. We're like a couple miles away. I was like, no, fucking drive me back to the pound right now. He's like, dude, don't be a bitch, dude. We're doing this. I'm helping you out, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, dude, this is insane.
Good Lord.
It came down to, I literally jumped out at a stoplight of this fucking car. Like, it was a truck. I mean, I was like, hi.
Yeah, those are big trucks.
Man, it was scary as hell. And of course, I go back to the pound, find out that I could have just left that damn car there the whole time and just pieced out my dad's Dodge Prius, or the Prius, you know, just like, fuck, I'm done. Never getting in a tow truck cab ever again in my life.
Oh my!
That's a really good
God.
lesson. That's a really good lesson.
I told you I didn't start smoking until after 30. You know, I got kidnapped and I was a grown man.
You got man-napped.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Toe-napped.
So yeah, I mean, what kind of car did he take? What kind of car did he repo? I don't
It
know
was
if
like
that's
a
important.
Supra or something. It was just like
Supra.
the nicest thing on the block too. It was just like incredible.
I was just hoping you were saying it was a Dodge Caravan or a
Oh,
Civic.
yeah.
You know, it's gonna be one of those.
Yeah, he comes back to the cab, forgot my screwdriver.
That's the worst though. Someone's like clearly preying on people who are already in a rough spot.
Oh,
at the city pound, you know, having to deal with
that's
administrative
the thing.
bullshit.
It's a private pound. The city contracts it. So that's the thing is like, why wouldn't they have a thing worked out? Be like, oh yeah, we got a guy. We hire a junkie, pay him $10.
Yeah.
Go steal this car, bring it to us. We'll keep it quiet for 2 weeks, and we just made $1,000.
Oh man, the guy was on vacation. We forgot to call you. Sorry, you know.
Yeah, we'll wait till it goes to auction. We already stole all the good parts, but we'll buy it back and sell for scrap.
Yeah, you know, let's call this guy in 4 weeks. Oh wait, he's got some duct tape in there. 3 weeks.
Yeah.
No way he'll be able to pay that much. But
anyway,
that's incredible. Well, thank Lord you survived a global pandemic and a carjacking and a, can we call it kidnapping?
I would call it
Like
kidnapping.
a half a kidnapping. At
Man
least.
napping. I like man napping, but that just sounds like a man enjoying a nice time to himself.
Oh, how about we just call it a tow job? I got a tow job.
I got a toe job.
Anyway.
Lord. Oh man. I feel we can't, I think, end better than that. Has it been an hour? Not to ask you guys how long this podcast has been going on.
60 BPM. It's been, hold on. Hour and 10 minutes right now. I'm calling it.
I just say we're in there, right? Are we we put in our time? This is the most unprofessional shit I've ever done. Asking you guys how long the podcast is.
7:58.
We put in our hour. We're there.
Least.
We
Hour
must.
10.
We
I'm
must.
calling it.
I can't. We can't top that. A kidnapping.
I don't think I could if I tried. I'd have to lie. I'd have to lie the entire time to come up with something that's better. I'd have to be like I was in one car getting kidnapped, and then I got out and got into another one and got kidnapped.
Yeah.
I can't top that.
When you were, can I ask you a few more follow-up questions?
Sure.
When you were in with this guy, were you starting to look for his like certification, or did you look for any things you could write down to ID him? Did you try to get his license plate when you jumped out in case shit went down and you had to get some info?
I just literally was like panicking, but trying to keep cool because I didn't
Cell phone? Did you have a cell phone? What year was this? Did you have a GPS and like a safety?
I don't even remember, but it was definitely one of those moments where you're just like starting to think like, where are the exits or something? It's like, I didn't want to provoke the guy.
Yeah,
to
especially
where
if he got mad.
because we were in the middle of the West Side and it was like his territory. So it's like also, like he's probably banking on like, I'm not going to run out, in the middle of, I mean, it was like one of those sections too, where, like I didn't know this until I started working in Oak Park. Like a lot of those vacant lots on the West Side are from the riots in '68. Like they just never filled them in. So there's blocks where it's just open fields in like one building. So that's where we were. It was just very desolate.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Not any real like. If you've ever been out there, it's very similar. I mean, I was just definitely not in a place I expected to be, and I don't think he banked on me jumping out.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
Way to persevere
badass
on that
move,
one.
by the way. Badass
dude.
move.
Man,
Tumbled like yeah. Keep it at a steady 1.5 mph, dude.
Did you try to?
Incredible.
Did you try to slip out like while he looked to the left? Like were you like waiting for a moment to get out of there, or was it just like I just got to go now?
I don't even know. Well, the thing is like I didn't bother to report it to police because I saw how helpful they were on my stolen car.
Yeah, I mean you're not gonna
You
get
know what I
anywhere
mean?
there.
Like
They'd just be like, yeah, they'll do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're gonna do
What were
that.
you thinking? Don't
What were
they
you
teach a
thinking?
stranger
Victim
danger
blaming
at school
shit.
anymore?
Yeah, victim blaming shit.
These millennials, avocado toast and kidnapping.
When he
Wouldn't you believe it?
when he left you in the car and he said, "Don't let anyone else in but me," did you have to let him in? Like, could you have turned the tide on him where like he's outside the car, and be like, "Oh, do you need something now?" Like holding his lockdown, like so he can't open the door.
I brought my own Phillips, man. We're on the road, So that would be. I feel like that would be a good like twist in a movie or something.
Yeah.
Well, once you
It's
make
just gonna
this a
make him
movie,
angrier.
Once you make this a movie, you got some options there.
Yeah, hard times with Joe on the streets of Chicago.
Joe and the toe job.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, couldn't be happier you're still kicking. Thank you so much for sharing
Thank
that.
you. This is great, guys. Yeah, thanks so much for hanging.
Austin, thank you too.
Thank you for having me.
Very fun.
Yeah.
We're gonna do some jamming maybe now. We're gonna play some Steely Dan, I'm assuming.
I hope so.
Might grill us some brats, have a little bit of food.
Can't wait.
So good living.
Congrats.
We'll see you next time, everyone. Stay safe. Don't get in tow trucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, pick a camera, right?
Yeah. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.